might recall earlier I've shown you this drawing by Mark Taylor, who was designing the figures for Masters of the Universe. And here was Torak, the He-Man prototype, but just behind him is Skeletor. At that time, he was just another goon, probably waiting to get the sneak attack on him. And this was the last of Mark's informal work, just doing it on the fly before he had to do it the corporate way at Mattel. This is one I'm guessing I'm gonna label this 1979 to 2023 because this is all before the 80s or around the time of the 80s. And this is kind of resembling like the Mummy. Now, the socially accepted part of lore in real life is that, from real life to fiction, is that Demo Man pictured here, who has his own action figure, by the way, is the prototype of Skeletor. And according to Mark Taylor, that's not true. It was created around the same time as Skeletor, but it was just like around the same time, just a coincidence. And there were some similar features in the skull face. But also was kind of the similar name. Now, this is the before the prototype comes out. You can see the similarities in the skull and the design, the harness, the ram staff, the feet. We never got the feet, of course. Here he is in color, full color. Now, this is the prototype here, and you can tell it looks closer to the comic book. And you notice this look like a kind of a little stick, and it's not an exact ram staff. So the head is unique, but this looks like a pencil, little wooden stick, like a Tinker Toy stick that you stick the head on. And that's why it looks a little different. And this is the design from the head, profile, straightforward. This was from the mini comic, and a really good design. They show the back with all the color illustrations. The original packaging, of course, you see the feet are changed a little bit here and there. This is the original back with all the figures. There's no, I'm used to the picture on top. As you could easily see, this says the original, right? Because there were other Skeletors. You can see there's an illustration. This is what I was used to as a kid growing up. Now, this is the first appearance of Skeletor in lore, in story, because he tries to get Teela, who's not the sorceress, as his bride. We don't see his face yet, so there's a small reveal. This was all, I remember this story better in the Viewmaster discs. By the way, I went to Target recently. The Viewmasters are very limited. They used to have tons and tons of different IPs. I don't know where they all gone. I used to have a Viewmaster flashlight, and there was one with sound. But Skeletor is very different here. Here, oh, look at those teeth. They're fucking horrible. Originally, he came from another dimension, so I know Revelation took upon it to make it look like they were all Skeletors. We'll get into that a little later. But here is Skeletor going through the portal. And for the first 4 issues, he was just this creepy bastard who would go and raid Castle Grayskull. He would use various good guys like Ram Man and Manny Faces to try to get them on his side. He would fail, and he would have like an army of characters like Merman and Beastman. I revealed on Monday that Teela was his daughter in a sense that he took the sorceress and split her into 2, creating Teela from her so he could be his bride. What perverse stuff, right? Now, in the comics, in the first few comics, nobody knew where Skeletor would run off to. Did he just run off into a hole somewhere, a cave? And this is not Snake Mountain, but this is like the beginnings of like his fortress of solitude, I guess. Just where he would base his base of operations. His magic would know no limits. He could levitate. He started to become a little more powerful on his own. But it used to be he had to go to like Castle Grayskull to get the power. But he's got like levitation, going through portals. That's how he met Trapjaw. He would use deception. This is kind of translated into a Filmation cartoon in which he would use trickery to stop Man-at-Arms. He froze him in ice or froze him as glass. I'm not sure which one that is. And here's one of the first times we see, this is Snake Mountain based on the toy. And this is where we just see, he's just kind of sitting around the play set. It's kind of silly. These took on the life of its own with the Filmation look. You got Cobra Khan there and Evil Lyn. There's Triclops. Another part of Snake Mountain. This is the one I was used to. And I said, they never looked like the set. I never was aware of the earlier comics, mostly these ones. And here he is trying to put Fisto through his own trials, going after Clawful. Skeletor was just an evil bastard. At some point, just like the Filmation cartoon, we learned that Hordak is the teacher of Skeletor. Skeletor was his ally. I think they originally established that they were allies, and then he was the student, just like we're used to now in the newer cartoons, except I guess for the latest CGI cartoon. So there's this whole rivalry between the two, and that stemmed from this to later stuff. And much like He-Man, there were different versions of Skeletor. There was Battle Armor Skeletor, Dragon Blaster, and I know there were Terror Claws with the giant claw. I got that one at a swap meet one time, and it had missed one of the claws. Oh well, that's what happens when you go to a swap meet. You get what you get. My memory of this Skeletor from Filmation is very vague. I only know as much as I can know. I'm actually going back to watching the old cartoons because there's so many of them. That's Alan Oppenheimer's Skeletor. Very silly, very kind of over the top. I guess it was meant to be this Grim Reaper with muscles who's just vowing to get into Castle Grayskull. And his Snake Mountain looked really fierce in the ones in the mini comic. I would say it's a little bit better than the one in the play set. I like the mountain with the snake coiling around it. I do remember some of this version. Also, when I had the golden books from the 80s, and Skeletor had a yellow and purple human face, which is very different from Keldor. But we'll get a little bit of that. But here he becomes Skeletor. It's the same thing with Hordak. But Hordak, in the golden books, there was one where he was just evil, and then there was another one where he was more benign to He-Man, like more at peace. He just wanted to stay in Etheria and not bother anybody. But it was a little bit different. So there were so many different versions. There are all these versions from around the world. And the one I can remember from the Filmation, the only time I remember was when She-Ra cried for Hordak because Hordak got sick with this berry pie. Skeletor made it so that he would disappear like the diamond ray of disappearance, and only She-Ra could save him. So Skeletor didn't give a damn. And this panel is from the Star Marvel Comics version where Skeletor ruled Eternia 30 years later by taking over Castle Grayskull. Of course, he lost because He-Man time traveled, or Prince Adam time traveled. And this is the Franklin Gela Skeletor, where he says, "I'll be back at the end of the movie." Honestly, never found it. I mean, it's a good outfit, but I never found this Skeletor intimidating. I think it's all in the face. It's all like eyes and teeth. It never really registers well here. I don't know. You have to kind of understand it. Now, there are two different versions of Space Skeletor. This is the one where he was... So, Skeletor in at the end of the journey of the original series here, this is like the final time we see these two in regular Eternia after a fight with Adam. So everybody will know that Adam and He-Man are one and the same in the comic strips here, but at some point he has to be repaired. And he looks different, right? He looks like he's been battle damaged. And he has to get repaired. So he gets repaired. So it's a combination of technology and magic. So his magic is weaker. And you can obviously see that in the design. So Skeletor's design, much different. And this is the goofy Skeletor, which I'm not a fan of that at all. It's like they changed his look a couple of times. Now the second time was a lot better. They made his eyes red. They gave him armor. His eyes were black for one episode, and that's when he would change into a new Skeletor. And then they made him bald with like hair sticking out, which was so stupid. I didn't like it at all. This is one of my favorite versions. Now, this version is different in that he was once Keldor. Now, Keldor, there's a significant amount of difference. The main difference is that in this one here, he's got this is his face before. I remember seeing this. You'd see him from bottom to top, and that's when he's about to raid the Hall of Wisdom, the Crystal Building, and that's before the whole Crystal Building gets destroyed and there's a town in its place. Keldor becomes Skeletor when he tries to poison or throw acid in Captain Randor's face. Based on the mini comic I read from Val Staples' website, He-Man.org, I had thought, are these two brothers? It's never stated in the cartoon. in the Mike Young production cartoons or the comic books. But as you see here, the show's creators always intended Keldor and Randor to be half brothers and would have established it later in the series. Keldor's DVD biography later revealed that he is the familial tie to Randor. So I had always felt that way, even if it wasn't spelled out in the comic books or the cartoon. And you can see the different versions. We'll do Keldor as a separate topic, but I just want to show you that's the sort of the Gar side of Skeletor, not human, but Gar. Now, in the DC comic books in 2013, 2014 or so, in these comics, this version of Skeletor was in love with Shadow Weaver. And significantly, he was like the... so it's just like in the Filmation cartoon, he kidnapped Adora, or he tried to kidnap Adam and Adora and left behind Adam. And obviously, he is the uncle of Adam, Prince Adam, Keldor was, just like in the newer stuff. He was supposed to go with take Shadow. So there was a whole thing between Hordak and Skeletor in which Hordak gives him the Ram Staff. And the Ram Staff shows him his future in which he betrays. It's a whole amazing thing. Let me see if I've shown this before. But he gives him the Ram Staff, right? So he kidnaps Adora. And there's the Sorceress. The Sorceress allows him to take her. She lets Skeletor take Adora. Goes off. There he goes. Oh, look, thank you for doing a good job. Now he's consulting the books of magic here. With this Ram Staff, he's also gotten this power. So he's become this more powerful wizard. But then he goes way too far. He gets ultimate power. He fights Hordak, and Hordak kills him. This is the head of Skeletor from a different time period. So he went back in time. He just saw his future. But it's very strange. So he's now changed the future. And he wanted Adora to go with him. Adora's mind was wiped so that she could not remember Skeletor or Keldor or anything, or He-Man, nothing. So there was this whole fight. He wanted Shadow Weaver to go with him. Shadow Weaver was loyal only to Hordak, so he left without her. And that was the end of that. Of course, later on, he betrays She-Ra because that's what Skeletor does. He told She-Ra that in every universe, Skeletor always loses to He-Man, in every multiverse. But he's still going to do it anyway. He doesn't give a damn. He's going to unmake the universe, and that's what he was trying to do in these comics. Now, in the comics, in the last few comics, he becomes a Skelegod of sorts. When there's a battle going on, this is He-Man versus Skelegod. So he's become this all-powerful bastard going after He-Man. This is the fight to the death. And, of course, you should know who. Let's find out. We all know who's going to win this. A couple of things worthy of note here in the Revelation stuff. Now, he says he came from an army of Skeletors. I have no memory of my days before servitude, but I can never forget one moment of my life in chains. So, Heart of the Great Perpetuum? Powerless. So, this is the Mark Hamill Skeletor origin. And he had a wife and child. They all look like skeletons, which is like bizarre. This is the bizarre shit. Of course, there's Skeletor, because there's these other Skeletors, right? It's fucking weird. And there is Skelegod. Now, this is the end of the 5 episodes. What is it somebody said? That He-Man had defended Grayskull for 100 to 200 episodes, right? He defended Grayskull, and Skeletor never got in there. Teela defended it for 5 episodes in Revelation, and Skeletor took over. What the fuck was that about? So there's Skelegod in ravishing purple. In the latest cartoon, the CGI cartoon for Netflix, this is Skeletor. So Keldor became Skeletor because he got the Havoc Staff. But this Skeletor doesn't care about Grayskull. He cares more about more power. He loves birthday cake, because there was a segment where Duncan actually got Skeletor a birthday cake and presents, I guess, and he wore a little birthday hat. But this Skeletor is very different, and this is the one that actually got Jeff Matsuda his job, just like Mark Taylor. You can see different things in the background, and I thought it was amazing stuff. It's like Link from Wind Waker beating up the Skeletor, but he cares more about power his own way without having to go to Castle Grayskull. And this is another version. There's an action figure on this one. So it's like this sort of Skeletor reborn kind of thing going on here. And there's another. I will be sending for this action figure soon. Cosmic Terror Skeletor. So his head is the facade of Castle Grayskull. It's kind of like the Ram staff, right? It's almost like when Skeletor got too much power because Rob David had written the DC comics from before. So you're seeing a little bit of parallels to this. Look at it, it's like Ganon from Zelda, right? So whether you like this version or you like classic Skeletor, he was literally the Grim Reaper. He was the undoing of peace and tranquility. And that's it. That is your history for Skeletor, 1979 to 2023.